טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shana Tova, everyone. It's okay, you can say it back. It's all right. Shana Tova, yeah, it's good. It's all good. It is such a blessing to be with all of you on this very special occasion on Yom Kippur, which has a tone of seriousness to it, but it's actually a really joyous occasion. We get to be in community, for one. We are very privileged to be led by the next generation. And we get to do reflection. We get to really think about our current year and to see where we're going to move forward. It's always been so interesting to me that first we do the new year, we start with Rosh Hashanah, and then we have Yom Kippur. You would think it would be the opposite, right? First we reflect, and then we have the renewal. But Judaism says, let's first start afresh, and then let's reflect. Because then it gives us that 10 days, the Yamim HaNoraim, those days of awe, to really take and set time aside to be present. And how lucky for us we get to do this together. So I'd like at this moment to invite Audrey Sakevich to help us bring in Yom Kippur with the blowing of the shofar to awaken all of our senses. Tekiah, Shevarim, Teruah, Tekiah. Thank you. This is also a very unique service because it's the only evening service that we actually wear our talit. Customarily, we only wear our talitot, our prayer shawls, in the shacharit, in the morning prayer. But Kol Nidrei, this evening service, is so special. Yom Kippur is not just a Shabbat, but it's considered our Shabbat of Shabbat, Shabbat shel Shabbatot, right? It is our special Shabbat to gather today. So we wear our talit starting in the evening all the way until tomorrow. We begin together our service in your machzor, in your prayer book on page 5, and I would love to invite Alana Estrin to lead us.
Praying is more than merely reciting words. It's about encountering aspects of ourselves we rarely, if ever, see, shifting our perspective and seeing all things anew, awakening our spirits and sense of wonder. Prayer is about connection with ourselves, with a community of other seekers, and with someone or something beyond ourselves. On the high holy days, in particular, our prayer has some additional goals. We're trying to remove our protective armor, ego, self-deception, rationalization, external and internal makeup, posturing, anything that keeps us from seeing ourselves as we really are. We're trying to experience both our vulnerability and the true source of our strength. And perhaps most importantly, we're trying to get past our self-judgment and locate a place of gentleness and tenderness, that place where we feel deeply loved and valued, and where we feel most loving of others, even if just for a moment.
We continue on page 9. I'd like to invite Melissa Martell, Sydney Polk, and David Martell to lead us in the candle blessing and the Shehechianu.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner, shel Yom HaKippurim.
Amen.
ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehehianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehehianu v'kimanu v'higianu b'zman hazeh.
We continue on page 18. When we read the words of Kol Nidre and what they actually mean, they're quite transactional, jarringly so. We know that Kol Nidre has a certain gravitas to it, and when you read what the words mean, it's almost so simple. The language is about obligation, about forgiveness, about letting go. Seems quite business-like almost. But actually, it's a reminder that we need to examine ourselves and behave with others in our community almost like it's a business. Not in the fact that it's transactional, but to take our obligations seriously, to take our obligations to ourselves seriously and to our community members seriously. And perhaps most importantly, we also must take forgiveness seriously. To others, it seems like a challenge, but really, we have the most difficult time finding forgiveness in ourselves and with ourselves. And what does it look like on this Yom Kippur to find that part of you that is stirring, that is challenging, that is sometimes harmful or painful, and to say, it's okay, I forgive you. I invite you to please rise for the Kol Nidre. may be seated. I'd like to invite Cami Klein to lead us in a reading on page 19.
Let our speech be pure and our promises sincere. Let our spoken words, every vow and every oath, be honest and well-intentioned. Let our words cause no pain, bring no harm, and never lead to shame, distrust, or fear. And if after honest effort we are unable to fulfill a promise, a vow, or an oath, may we be released from its obligation and forgive for our failure. Let our speech be pure and our promises sincere.
We rise for the Baruch Hu on page 22. Continue on page 24 with the Ma'ariv Aravim. I invite you to join me. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim Bechokma Poteach She'arim ובתבונה משנה עיתים ומחליף את הזמנים ומסדר את הכוכבים במשמרותיהם ברקיע כרצונו. בורא יום ולילה, גולל אור מפני חושך וחושך מפני אור, ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו. אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב ערבים.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. We will know that you are one. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
We continue with the Ve'ahavta on page 30.
V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anohi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'techa u'vleftecha v'derech u'shochbecha u'kumecha u'pshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'ftatam al mezuzot betecha u'bisharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות להם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
We continue on page 40. There's this beautiful midrash. A midrash is a story that helps us understand our Torah. That asks the question, why is the first part of mi chamocha, mi chamocha, there's no dot in the chaf, and in the second one, there is a dagesh, a dot, and it's mi kamocha. If you've never noticed that, it's there. And they ask this question, our rabbis ask the question, why is there no dot, and then in the second one there is a dot? And there's this beautiful story to help us think about it, that as the Israelites are crossing through the Red Sea, they are trying to go through, and they're not so confident that the sea is going to part just yet, and they're saying, Micha mocha, over and over, who is like you, God? Who is like you, God? Who's like you, God? And they say Micha mocha, and the water is just getting higher and higher and higher, and then they end up saying Mika mocha, because the water gets stuck in their throat, and they think that the water is never going to part, and here they are with the Egyptians behind them, and this promised land on the other side, and they feel like they're going to drown. And just in the most vulnerable moment, whoosh, the sea parts. Now, to be clear, that's not written in our Torah. This is what's beautiful about a midrash. It helps us think about our Torah and really expound on it and think about it and really use our imagination for all the things that we don't have explained in our Torah. But what's wonderful about this midrash is it teaches us that sometimes we have to hit this moment of desperation, of total, complete rock bottom before whoosh, the sea parts. And on Yom Kippur, it's okay to think about the rock bottom. We are invited to think about the desperation and where that is in our lives. So I hope on this Micha Mocha, on this evening, it feels just a little bit different than on Shabbat. Continue on page 42 with the Hashkivenu.
for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkiveinu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, Hamidenu Shomreinu
In just a moment, I'm going to ask you to rise for the Amidah. And our Amidah always begins with our Avot and Imahot, our forefathers and foremothers. And on this Yom Kippur, I ask us to not just invite into your hearts our forefathers and foremothers, but all of those members of our family that have come before us or are very present in our lives today, and how we rely on them for betterment and how we rely on them every single day. Please rise and join us on page 46.
Adonai, Sfatai Tivta, Ufi Agid Tehilateha, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Hasei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo v'Yahava. Zochreinu lechaim, Melech hafetz b'chaim, V'hodreinu b'sefer ha'chaim, V'hodreinu b'sefer ha'chaim, Leman ha'Elohim ha'im. Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Amen. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah, Rav lechoshiach, Morid hatah, Mechakel hayim v'chesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim, Somet noflim v'rofei cholim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Mishenei afar, Michamocha bal gevurot, Umido melach, Melech memitz, Umechayem, Umatzliach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehahayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayei hakol.
be seated. I'd like to invite Kayla Stream for reading on page 71.
We read responsively on page 71. On this night of atonement, grant us, God, a sense of your presence as we call upon your name. Speak your hopeful message to each yearning heart and answer the worthy petitions of each searching soul. Purify and strengthen our noble strivings and cleanse us of all our unworthy desires. Join us together in fellowship and in love, and grant us the joy which comes from enriching other lives. Help us to be loyal to the heritage we share. Draw us nearer to Torah in wisdom and in faith. Strengthen our devotion to our people everywhere. Keep alive our faith in righteousness and truth. Bless us with hopes to uplift our daily lives, and keep steadfast our courage and our resolve at all times. On this night of atonement, help us, God, to be worthy of your presence as we call upon your name.
We continue together on page 78 with the Shalom Rav.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech Adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. B'tov be'enecha levarech et amcha Yisrael lechol עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We continue silently.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my redeemer, Yehi Ratzon.
Chag Sameach. Has it ever happened to you that you are speaking with someone and they look a little like this? because this is the teen service, I feel like we can relate. But teens are not the only ones who do this, of course. Or the opposite is true, right? We are sometimes on our device, whatever it is, and someone is speaking to us, and we're half TikTok and half focused. We're not 100% in either direction. Yes, we identify with this? Okay, 20%? Come now. All right, thank you. I actually had to look up some statistics about cell phones because I was really curious. And there are some varying numbers, but I did want to share one or two with you that I thought were really compelling. So approximately between 78 and 89% of Americans say they check their phones within the first 10 minutes of waking up. Why? What are we so afraid of missing? Our FOMO, if you will, is so serious that we're so glued to our devices. And the question is, are we doing ourselves a favor by constantly checking, or are we giving our phones and social media way too much power over us? You, my friends, and my friends of the next generation, have grown up in an era where you can have an entire identity through an app that actually may be different from who you really are in real life. And this was something that was unimaginable even 10 years ago. Through our apps and our social media, we can broadcast all of life's goodness and hardships. And our beautiful and wonderful teenagers today actually face a unique set of challenges as a result. They navigate a world transformed by technology, social media, and a very rapidly changing societal norm. According to a study by the Pew Research Center, a staggering 95% of American teenagers have access to a smartphone, and while 45% report being online almost constantly. These tools have revolutionized communication and information sharing, but they have also given us new forms of peer pressure, cyberbullying, and anxiety. Our phone is how we communicate, it's how we share information and create ways of expressing ourselves. And today I want to venture and think about who we could be or who we could not be without these pieces of technology constantly glued to our fingertips. And to put the obvious aside for just a moment, it would be much harder to get around without a cell phone all the time. The maps on our phones help us navigate the world and in some ways navigate our lives. Communication would be much slower and we would need more dedicated time for communication. But what about our social media, TikTok, Insta, Snapchat? We'd have to find new creative outlets to express ourselves. And in this age of technology where our cell phones have become almost like extensions of our bodies, additional limbs, if you will, I'd like for us to reflect upon the implications of being constantly engrossed in these devices. And I definitely don't want to sound like the parent of every teen in here, because the reality is we're guilty of it too. I want to experiment with just an idea for a moment. I want to contemplate the significance of finding balance in the digital era and nurturing our spiritual connections. On Yom Kippur, we read the Torah portion, Nitzavim. In Nitzavim, Moses addresses the Israelites, affirming their covenant with God. They commit themselves to abiding by God's rules, which might seem obvious, but actually in reality, it's really not so simple, and it is not black and white. In this agreement, Moses emphasizes the importance of staying committed to the covenant, warning against the allure of idolatry and distraction. And the Israelites were no strangers to idolatry. They got themselves into trouble quite a few times while crossing the desert. And the idolatry that Moses speaks of isn't just about the golden calf that the Israelites built in the desert. In some ways, our constant use of cell phones can inadvertently lead us away from what truly matters, which is a kind of idolatry. Idolatry is anything that leads us off the path of righteousness, justice, or simply doing the right thing. When we become engrossed in endless scrolling text messages, notifications, we sometimes distance ourselves from our spiritual path and the human connections that truly enrich our lives. And just to be clear, I am not saying that cell phones are inherently bad and we should get rid of them, God forbid. But rather, sometimes they can be distracting in moments where we should be engaged and present, and we get lost in the appeal. Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, of blessed memory, noted that the Hebrew word nitzavim means standing together. Nitzavim is in the plural. And in a world dominated by screens, we must ask ourselves, are we truly standing together with our loved ones, or are we standing isolated in our digital bubbles? Jewish tradition teaches us the importance of community and presence. Let us remember that our presence, undivided by the glow of the screens, strengthens our bonds between us and helps us fulfill our spiritual covenant. It helps us focus on what is important in our lives, uninterrupted. So what does that actually look like? Do we spend enough time speaking within our families, siblings, or even friends, learning about who they are and what's really on their mind? When we share meals together, are we present in that moment with the delicious food and wonderful company, or are we distancing ourselves with our devices? Do we spend enough time volunteering and giving back to our community? Do we spend enough time just being with ourselves, alone, and thinking about what is important to us? I know some of you spend time journaling, writing stories and poetry. Our wonderful teens have shared their works with me. And these are really meaningful pastimes that we should make more space, more time for. Scholarship has also shed light on the effects of excessive cell phone use on our well-being. Studies suggest that constant phone usage can lead to increased stress, anxiety, and decreased attention spans. And as we navigate our fast-paced lives, how do we set that time aside for real introspection, prayer, and mindfulness? Just as the Israelites were called upon to reflect on their commitment with God, we too should reflect on the commitment to nurturing our own mental and emotional health. In the book of Psalms 46:11, we read, "Be still and know that I am God." This verse resonates deeply in the context of our modern lives. How often do we put the attention on interacting with God, or better yet, just being still? That part's maybe the harder part than interacting with God. But intentionally setting a time to disconnect from our devices and be present in that moment, we create the space for a deeper connection with ourselves, with others, and with the divine. Experiment with cooking or baking by yourself or with a family or friend. Make some time to visit the elderly, care for animals, or play with small children. Go out for ice cream with your family at least once a month, and leave your phones in the car or at home. Spend 1 hour a week on Shabbat where you turn your phone off. The possibilities are endless, but I think you get the drift. Jewish texts also emphasize the value of balancing technology with intentional living. The Shema, which is a central prayer in our tradition, it teaches us to love God with all of our heart, soul, and might. Have we ever stopped to wonder what that actually feels like? How do we love anything with all of our heart, all of our soul, and all of our might? That is a very big undertaking. When we allow distractions to consume our attention, we risk diverting our focus on the present moment to get into those deep areas, those moments of depth. As we navigate the digital landscape, let us embrace the teachings of Nitzavim and the wisdom of our tradition. May we strive to be fully present in our interactions, cherish our community, and nurture our spiritual connections. By finding the right balance between technology and intentional living, we can ensure that our cell phones remain tools that serve us rather than distractions that pull us away from our higher selves and our sacred commitments. I wish you all a Shana Tova Umetuka. May this new year be filled with blessings and growth for each and every one of us, and may we all find the courage to stand imperfect yet resilient as we navigate this journey of life, and together we say, Amen. In just a moment, we're going to continue on page 82. With our vidui, our confession. There's something so profound about the idea that our confessions are in the plural. And we look at these confessions and we say, well, I didn't do that, and I didn't do that, and I did that, and I did that a little bit yesterday. But this idea that it's in the present, first of all, grounds us in our community, reminding us that whatever we do affects every single person, not just in this room, but really in the world. And also the opposite is true. We can take care of each other in our missteps, in our errors, in our mistakes, and lift one another up. So I invite you to please rise and join us on page 82.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la. Asham knew, Asham knew, Bagad knew, Bagad knew, Gazal knew, Gazal knew, Dibar knew Dofi, Dibar knew Dofi. Ya la la.
Continue on page 115 with the Avinu Malkeinu. Avinu Malkeinu, our Father, our King. As Reformed Jews, sometimes we have a hard time with that language. It doesn't always resonate with us. But there's something that is meant to stir within us. It's meant to help us think that there's always something greater than us. Whether that's God for you, perhaps it's your family, Perhaps it's the reason, your raison d'être, the reason you wake up in the morning. We are meant to be elevated. We are human beings. We are meant to be elevated and moved and go through all of the emotions. And in the Avinu Malkeinu, we are reminded that there is always something greater than us.
Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'hesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'hesed, v'hoshienu. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'hesed. Aseh imanu, tzedaka v'hesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu. Avinu Malkeinu, Choneinu Vaneinu, Ki ein banu masim.
You may be seated. In every one of our life's moments, in our most joyous moments, we always take a moment to recall those who came before us, those who are no longer with us in body but always remain in our hearts. At this time, if you are in a period of Shiva'ah, Shloshim, or are marking a yahrzeit and would like to share the name of someone you have lost in the last 7 days, 30 days, or are marking a yahrzeit, I invite you to say their name as my gaze meets yours. I invite you to rise as you are able and join me on page 122 for the Kaddish. There is a small insertion for Yom Kippur about halfway through the page in a dark gray. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דחו בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעלם ועלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקדושה בריחו. לעילה ולעילה מלכל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלום רבה מן שמיה, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, והוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. You may be seated. Before we go to our closing song, we have just a few announcements here. First of all, a very big thank you to Allie Taylor, our cantorial soloist who hails from Baltimore. Dr. Marshall Griffith, thank you so much for being here and spending our time with our teens. The biggest thank you goes to our wonderful future. We are so privileged to have you lead our service, and we cannot wait to see you do this outside of our four walls. And I just want to also say a thank you to Cantor Kathy Sebo, who does so much of the preparation behind the scenes. Thank you so much to Audrey for blowing the shofar so beautifully. Thank you to our ushers, Jill, thank you so much. I want to also remind you that tomorrow morning we have services here in the chapel at 9 a.m. Our tot service for our young kids, it's about 30 minutes. And then we have two services happening at the same time at 10 a.m. We have one in the sanctuary, and we have Renew My Soul also at 10 a.m., which is in the social hall atrium. There is nothing downtown. Please don't go there. And then we have our Moments of Holiness, which begins at the Silver Sanctuary downtown at 3 p.m., directly followed by Yizker and Ne'ilah. And our Social Action Annual High Holiday Food Drive. Please, if you remember, drop off non-perishable food items at the temple before October 1st. We close our service with Oseh Shalom.
Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Oseh Shalom bimromav, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
I wish you a Gemar Chatima Tova, an easy fast, and a very meaningful Yom Kippur.